So the waterfall model is a project management methodology that are being used in managing software processes. So it is a linear step-by-step software development process where each phase finishes before the next phase begins. So when you look at the software development process that we saw in the previous slide, you are going to see that there are different series of stages that are important from the conception to development or to even deployment and maintenance. And if you look at this diagram here, you are going to see the various phases that are included in the waterfall model. We first of all start with requirement gathering, where all the various requirements and resources that are necessary for the development of that particular software is being gathered and also analyzed. And after all this is finished, we now go to the next phase, which is the design phase. And as we've explained, this phase is made up of two types of designers. We have the UI UX designers, and we also have the system or architectural designers. After the design has been completed, development now will follow, right? And after development, we go to testing, deployment, and maintenance. Now, in this model, which is the waterfall model, if the requirement phase is not finished, you cannot go to the design phase. And unless the design phase is finished, you cannot go to the development phase. You can only go to the next phase in the process only when the current stage has finished. That is only when you have the permission to go to the next stage. And now, when you go to the next stage, if maybe while walking in the next stage you encounter a particular problem, you encounter a particular difficulty, which is as a result of a work that was already done in the previous stage. Let us say you are at this moment at the testing phase and you realize that there is a particular problem which has been caused by design. You cannot go back again to the design phase to correct the problem, then you develop and then you test again. You will not be able to do that. You lack that flexibility in this model, and that is one of the major limitations of the waterfall model. Once a stage has been finished, it is difficult to go back to that stage, and even impossible at times to go back to this stage. That is why this stage is usually used for project where you have fixed requirement, a project in which there is little flexibility that is needed in that particular project, where everything is predictable. You know exactly what you have to do, and you know exactly the outcome that is going to come after you do that particular this thing. But for a project where there is a lot of flexibility, there is a lot of changes that has to be done, the waterfall model is really not efficient to be able to manage such kind of project. And you have to know that software development is a very flexible project. User requirement and need changes at the same time. You have updates here and there that you have to do. And as a result of all this factor, the waterfall model proved itself to be inefficient to adequately manage software project, right? And what you have to know is that there is little or no overlap between phases. That means that it's always at times difficult for two phases or for two teams to be able to work simultaneously at the same time. The requirement stage has to first of all finish before the design stage start. Though the requirement teams cannot be working at the same time while the design teams are working. These are one of the little drawbacks that is found in this model. The first team finish their work and then they go to the next team. And that is why in this particular model you are going to discover that why these particular requirement teams are working, the testing phase are idle, and why the design phase are working, the testing teams are also idle. There is a lot of idleness in this particular model, so there is wastage of talent and there is also wastage of resources in this particular model as a result of this little or no overlap that takes place between this particular stage. Now the strength of this particular model is that with this model we have clear milestones and documentation. What is actually happening is that before the work is already started, you already know what you want to start, you already know what you need for you to be able to do. You don't go to the field before saying, okay, there is this particular this thing that we ought to use. No, they They document everything, and they set goals. Like every phase or every stage have their specific goal. The requirement teams, we have to gather requirement, and they have their goal. They know exactly what they have to do, and then they do it. And as a result of that, they usually, various teams usually do quality work, right? This is first of all the power of this particular model, and the documentation that is done in this particular model permit in such a way that there is little mistake that is being done. Everything is being scripted, everything is being written down, and if at a particular moment they want to consult everything, they already know where they have to go and look for them to be able to get those information. Now, the limitation of this model is that it is inflexible to changes. The waterfall model is inflexible to changes. As we have explained here, if for example, once this work has been done at this phase, everything that has been done here has to continue right to the end. Let me take this simple example. Let us say you are building a house. What is going to happen after the foundation of the house has been laid, and then the building has been done, and even the house have been roofed? If after the foundation have been laid and the building have been done and the house have been roofed, you now discover that maybe the position of the kitchen was wrongly placed, or the bedroom was wrongly placed, there is nothing you can do. You just have to continue like that. If you have to if you are really adamant or desirous in changing that, what you have to do is that you have to break down everything. And this is actually one of the limitations of this model. Every project that is managed with this model are inflexible to change. It is very difficult to change something. Once something has been adopted, it is going to be used throughout the various phases by the different team. Even if there is going to be at a higher cost, there is no turning back. This is one of the limitation to this. And then now, one of the limitation to this is that because everything is being done linearly, there is usually late feedback and bug detection. What is going to happen is that because there can be no overlap, or because there is little or no collaboration between the teams that are working, what is going to happen is that because for example, if for us to be able to detect a particular problem that is at the testing phase, you need to first of all develop the application. Let me explain it in this simple way. You have phase 1 that finish, you go to phase 2, and then you go to phase 3. Now, each and everything is being done linearly, right? Because the application have to finish being developed, everything is being developed before the application is being tested. You are going to see that you are going to detect bugs lately, and even when these bugs are being detected lately, you will not be able to change them at this particular phase. You will have to push everything to the next sprint, and that is when you will be able to do the various changes that are required in this particular regarding the issue or the problem that you have encountered or that you have faced. So you all have late feedback. Everything is taking a lot of time to be able to do, and when everything takes time to do, user feedback is always at the end when everything has been done. That is when user will be able to see whether they will appreciate what have been done or they do not appreciate it. That is when teams will be able to test to see if there are errors or not. But if everything were being done simultaneously or being done maybe in an overlapping way, there would have been this particular problem would have been solved. And there is also silos between teams which lead to communication gaps. These teams, the waterfall model is made up of different teams. You have the requirement team, design, development, testing, deployment, and all the various teams. And what is happening is that in this model, all these teams are working in isolation or independently. Everyone has their own goal that they are working on, and when they finish working, they give the work to the next team, and then they continue. So there is little communication between this team, and as a result of this little communication, there are a lot of errors which is being detected in this system. There are a lot of problems that we have, and there are a lot of confusion that we have due to this poor communication. And as a result of this, the impact of all this limitation is that we have long delivery cycles and high risk of project delays or even project failure. What is going to happen is that if maybe the requirement teams are working here and they have some drawback here, even if they have to take 5 months to be able to solve this particular problem, every other team has to wait for 5 months, and it is only when they have finished their solving the problem in 5 months, that other teams will be able to work, and that is a very very big drawback regarding this. And one of the issue that leads to long delivery cycle is that if, for example, we take our restoration application that this user, for example, want to make for his restaurant, if he wants to the developers to develop 5 features in total for him, he meets them here, and these are the developers here. They will go forward and they start. Now in this particular model, everything that has to be done has to be done at once, right? If they have to develop 5 features, they have to finish all those 5 features that constitute that application before they can actually ship the application. So they bundle everything as one, and they work on everything at the same time, and then they compile everything and they deliver it to the users. They do not work in sprint, or they do not work in increments, which is the power of another model that we are going to see lately, right? And as a result of this, because they want to finish everything, build all the features, compile everything, and then release them at once, it usually lead to long delivery cycles, which can be months and even years, depending on all this. And most of these issues can lead to project failure and even delays in the project, right? So this is it about the waterfall model.